over investigation on sexual allegation by Natasha Akpoti. Serap HEDA 54 CSOs demand Akpabio's resignation after court upholds electoral fraud conviction. Meanwhile, EFCC expands NNPCL investigation, uncovers compelling evidence. And also on the political scene, we have this development where Matawalle called out, says he should defend probe against him. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The Vatican today disclosed that all of the 133 Catholic cardinals who will vote to choose a successor to Pope Francis are now in Rome ahead of the conclave starting this week. According to the Vatican, the cardinals will gather in secret in the Sistine Chapel starting at 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday. They will keep voting until one choice amongst them has a 2/3 majority and becomes head of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics. The conclave itself begins Wednesday morning with a celebration of a special mass in St. Peter's Basilica. In the afternoon, the cardinals will formally process into the Sistine Chapel, the storied 15th century worship space adorned with frescoes by Michelangelo, where they will begin voting for the next pope. They are expected to take one vote on Wednesday afternoon. Subsequent days will have 2 votes each morning and afternoon. It takes a 2/3 majority for someone to be elected. According to conclave regulations, if no one has been chosen after the first 3 days, the cardinals should take a day-long pause of prayer before continuing. The only signal given to the outside world about the deliberations will come from a chimney installed above the chapel. The cardinals will burn their ballots, adding a chemical product to create one of 2 colors of smoke: black for an inconclusive vote, white when there is a new pope. While back home in Nigeria, a North-based civic group, the Concerned Northern Forum, has raised the alarm over what it described as a deliberate delay by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) to investigate former Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawalle, despite multiple petitions and earlier commitments by the agency. Speaking at a press conference in Kaduna today, the CNF chairman Aliyu Muhammad said EFCC's inaction was raising serious questions about its independence and willingness to go after powerful individuals. According to him, the group, alongside other civil society bodies, had submitted petitions as far back as May and September 2024, alleging how Matawalle allegedly mismanaged a colossal amount of money in state funds during his tenure from 2019 to 2023. The CNF pointed to official financial data and loan records to back its claims, insisting that the former governor should be made to explain how federal allocations and borrowed funds running into billions and hundreds of billions were utilized. Sani stated that the EFCC itself, in a statement issued on May 18, 2023, had confirmed through its then Director of Media and Public Affairs, Osita Nwaja, that EFCC is investigating Matawalle over allegations of monumental corruption, award of phantom contracts, and diversion of over 70 billion naira, lamented that more than a year later, nothing concrete had come out of that investigation. Meanwhile, in a very recent development as regards to killings in Plateau State, a recent development has emerged. The Nigerian police force has announced the arrest of more suspects in connection with the recent attacks and killings in Plateau State. A statement on Monday by the force public relations officer ACP Olumuyiwa Adejobi confirmed that 3 more suspects were arrested and weapons were also recovered. Adejobi explained that the arrest and recoveries were achieved after operations carried out by police operators based on credible intelligence in connection with the Plateau killings, which resulted in the loss of many lives. According to the Nigerian police, the force arrested 3 more suspects in connection with the recent killings in a focused operation on May 3, 2025 at around 4:30 p.m. A team of IRT Rapid Response Team operatives acting on credible intelligence apprehended one Abubakar Jibrin from Kaloni community, Shandam local government area, Plateau State. Jibrin was found to be in unlawful possession of prohibited counterfeited firearms. Following his arrest, Jibrin's confession led to the discovery of one SMG rifle with an empty magazine at his residence. Adding to these accomplishments, on May 4, 2025, in Ladi, Plateau State, police operatives recovered 2 fabricated revolver rifles. The firearms were linked to cartridges originating from a suspect identified as Ismail Danjuma, who is now in custody and assisting with the ongoing investigation on the killings on Plateau. The spokesperson added that the IGP, Kaide Adeolu Ekpetoku, urged members of the public to maintain calmness, continue providing crucial information and unalloyed support that can aid the efforts of the Nigerian police force in restoring peace in these disturbed areas and other parts of the country. Meanwhile, the Rivers State Sole Administrator Vice Admiral Ibok Etta Ibas has urged participants of Senior Course 47 of the Armed Forces Command and Staff College Jaji to ensure that their study tour reports provide practical solutions to the security challenges plaguing the nation. Ibas gave the charge when the Senior Course 47 participants paid him a courtesy visit at the Government House in Port Harcourt on Monday. Represented by the Secretary to the Government, Ibibia Wurika, he emphasized the significance of their study tour to the state, given the prevailing security threats to lives and property, which necessitated the current administration's intervention. This was contained in a statement issued by the sole administrator's media aide, Hector Ibikwobu. The sole administrator stressed the importance of gathering credible intelligence to address insecurity, noting that insecurity challenges negatively impact economic productivity, reduce government revenue, and deter investments. Now, in this very recent development, President of the Senate, Akpabio, has reportedly withdrawn from the presidential panel probing the sexual harassment allegations leveled against him by the Kogi Central lawmaker Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. The withdrawal, which occurred without any official explanation, has raised questions and sparked widespread speculation. The president of the Citizens Quest to Truth, or B. Indikwe, disclosed recently via a monitored television program on Saturday. According to sources who spoke to correspondents, the panel was established by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Wednesday, April 2, 2025. Vice President Kashim Shettima was appointed to chair the panel, with additional members including National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu, the Attorney General of the Federation, and representatives from Akpabio and Akpoti-Uduaghan. The panel was tasked with investigating the sexual harassment allegations, which had become a source of national controversy. Akpabio's sudden withdrawal has fueled speculation regarding his reasons for stepping down. While no official statement has been released, sources suggest that the Senate President cited concerns over potential executive interference and raised doubts about the impartiality of the panel. The tensions between Akpabio and Akpoti-Uduaghan reached a boiling point following the accusations of sexual harassment made by Akpoti-Uduaghan in February 2025. In response to these allegations, the Senate suspended Akpoti-Uduaghan on Thursday, March 6, pending the outcome of the investigation. Critics have described the suspension as a silencing tactic intended to suppress Akpoti-Uduaghan's voice. Well, despite the suspension and the ongoing investigation, Akpoti-Uduaghan remains resolute. She has vowed to present evidence in court to support her claims of sexual harassment, promising to fight for justice in the face of growing political tensions. Meanwhile, 56 civil society organizations, CSOs, including the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project and the Human and Environmental Development Agenda, HEDA, has jointly called for the resignation of Senate President Akpabio. Now, this demand is coming in the wake of the Court of Appeal's decision to uphold the conviction of Professor Peter Ogban over allegations of manipulating election results in Akpabio's favor. The appellate court sitting in Calabar on Wednesday reaffirmed Ogban's 3-year jail sentence, initially imposed after he was found guilty of altering the outcome of the 2019 Akwa Ibom Northwest senatorial poll to benefit Akpabio, who at the time contested under the All Progressives Congress. Ruling or reacting to the ruling, the CSOs issued a strongly worded joint statement on Monday saying This ruling raises serious concerns about the legitimacy of Senator Akpabio's mandate. They continued, "It is deeply troubling that the election which brought him to the Senate has now been judicially confirmed to have been manipulated. In any democratic society, such a development demands immediate accountability and responsible leadership." Now, although Senator Akpabio has consistently denied any personal wrongdoing, the coalition argued that the conviction of the electoral official responsible for declaring his victory raises serious questions about the authenticity of his tenure. The CSOs urged the Senate president to resign, to safeguard public trust, and to demonstrate a commitment to democratic values. They also emphasized that the judiciary has taken a bold step to delivering justice, and it is now incumbent upon political actors to act accordingly. Additionally, the coalition questioned Akpabio's qualification to have actually contested the 2023 elections or to preside over the Senate, considering the antecedents of the 2019 contest. Meanwhile, in this very revealing antecedent with the NNPCL, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has intensified its probe into alleged financial misappropriation and mismanagement at the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, zeroing in on the $2.96 billion allocated for the repair of Nigeria's moribund refineries. Multiple arrests have already been made, with several former managing directors of the Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna refineries reportedly under investigation. A top EFCC who spoke with correspondents revealed that investigators had traced substantial sums of money to private accounts linked to former NNPCL officials. The focus of the investigation includes the $1.56 billion earmarked for Port Harcourt Refinery, $740 million for Kaduna Refinery, and $657 million for Warri Refinery. The EFCC is said to be working closely with NNPCL to obtain financial records and interview key witnesses as it tracks the flow of the funds and prepares for more arrests in the coming days. Although rumors are circulating about the possible questioning of immediate past NNPCL CEO Mele Kyari, it remains unclear as of press time whether he has appeared before the commission. Experts in the Nigeria's oil and gas industry have expressed mixed reactions to the EFCC probe. You're currently listening to the World News right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll head into the news analysis segment, where I'll be joined via the telephone with Barrister Fred Nzako, who is a political, national and social affairs commentator, to give us his insight into some of the stories read out on the World News at 6. Do kindly stay with us. Barrister Fred, good evening and thank you for joining us on the World News at 6 today.
Thank you. Good evening.
Can you hear me, Barrister Fred?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister Fred Nzako. Let me start off with the panel setup. Now, it seems like Akpabio is in trouble based on the sexual allegation harassment being done by the senator representing Kogi Central, Senator Natasha Akpoti. But this is where things get a little bit ironical. So on April 2nd, right, the president set up a panel with the National Security Advisor. The Vice President Kashim Shettima was appointed to chair the panel. Additional members include the National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu, the Attorney General of the Federation, and representatives from Akpabio and Akpoti Udwagan. They are tasked with investigating the sexual harassment allegations, which has become a source of national controversy and international embarrassment. Now, Barrister Fred, here is where my confusion comes in. When this matter first of all came up, there was an ethics committee in the National Assembly that were incapable or seemed to act incapacitated to even pretend to have that sense of decency to investigate this matter. After that was done, they included some political shenanigans in the whole process. Now, the matter is in court. Natasha was suspended without any investigation carried out. Senate President, who was obviously the hit or the target of this sexual allegation, was the one who presided over her case. Natasha was suspended without due diligence done. She was stripped of her rights to be called a senator for the next 6 months. Natasha now went to the International Parliamentary Union to present this matter. Also, the case is in court, if you remember. She was also asked to apologize to the Senate President, whereby she responded with a sarcastic response. Just last week, Friday, we heard of a certain Professor Mbeke who had a couple of responses to say, having to claim that Natasha Akpoti deliberately wanted to bring down the Senate President. A lot of Nigerians, including the Vice President, reacted by saying that Godswill Akpabio should not bring in some political bureaucracy in the whole process and allow due diligence to follow. Tell me why 2 days ago, in one of the military barracks, soldiers were killed due to the onslaught of ISWAP and Boko Haram. And you have the National Security Advisor, you have the Vice President, you have the Attorney General of the Federation, who have a lot on their table to deal with national security, having to panel a sexual allegation harassment from 2 senators. Please, what is the priority? I don't even understand what this means. Kindly explain what it means.
Well, while you were speaking, audio was not smooth, but I was able to and let me tell you quickly that it is because a very huge embarrassment to the sensibilities of Nigeria that a very mundane issue like issue of Natasha versus Akpabio would occupy public space and occupy the time of public officials, and now is receiving executive attention when so many other things in Nigeria that are yearning for attention are ignored, essentially ignored. And it is also becoming very embarrassing that people who ordinarily were described as leaders are now acting in a manner that is so pedestrian that leadership in Nigeria has become a very questionable issue. If in as much as issue of sexual allegation is one that must be investigated and any culprit that is found guilty punished according to the dictates of the law and morality of the society, I do not think that the narrative is going the way it should. Why I say so is because let us correct this impression. Akpabio was not suspended because of her sexual allegation against Akpabio. She was suspended because of her action on the floor of the Senate over the issue of arrangement of seats. It is important that we get it clear. It was after that she now went out of the chambers and went to grant media interview. In the process of granting media interview, leveled an allegation against Akpabio over sexual allegation. So the two things must be clearly differentiated. Okay. And the investigation conducted by the Senate was essentially with respect to her actions on the floor of the Senate, for which she was eventually suspended. The issues about sexual allegation has not been treated by the Senate, and of course, you know that the matter is in court. I understand that Akpabio's wife went to court. I do not know if Natasha herself has gone to court, Nigerian court, but what she has done is to go to court of public opinion. And
no, Natasha has gone to court. Akpabio's wife went to court, but it was not concerning Akpabio's wife and Natasha. The case is still in court.
Good. If Natasha has gone to court, then what is the basis of such investigation that he said to be that the executive is now raising a committee to look into? I do not think it is necessary. I think it is a sheer waste of executive time that the leaders should plunge into turning around the economy, making sure that there is security in the land, creating life for betterment of Nigerian people, then you are now spending such a precious time to look into an allegation that has to do with two adults claiming to have immorally assaulted each other. I do not think it is a priority that is set right. Now that it is in court, it is the duty of the court because it's a criminal allegation. Sexual assault is a crime. So it is the duty of the court to look into it and not the duty of any other.
No, but the question is, what would have made the president to intervene now by setting up a panel? Do you know the caliber of persons he set up in the panel to investigate this matter?
It is a sign that the government is operating without appropriate compass. It's a sign that the government is rudderless. It's a sign that the government is confused. It's a sign that the government does not know what they are doing. If Mr. President is convinced to go and set up such a high-ranking panel to look into issue of sexual allegation that needs to be proven, and the court is there waiting for Natasha to go and prove her case, and then Mr. President Tinubu, of all the challenges we have in Nigeria, will set up such a high-powered committee. I think it's a very huge shame on the government. I say this with all sense of responsibility that the government has not acted well in that regard. It is left for, I expected the government, having kept quiet all this while, if they could not solve the problem internally, in-house as leaders over there in Abuja, I expected the government to continue to remain silent and allow the courts to carry out their responsibilities. Because irrespective of whatever panel that is set, it is still the court that will give a final, there will be a final arbiter in that regard. What if the panel comes out and says Natasha does not know what she's saying? Will Natasha accept it? Natasha will not accept it.
Now, Barrister,
if the panel comes out and they indict Akpabio will not accept it. It is only the judicial indictment that is impartial that will be, whether you accept it or not, that becomes what the law will say.
But Barrister,
so it took... I expect the court to look into the matter and then bring it to finality, and not this administrative committee that Mr. President has set up.
The really issue here is that it took the Senate, or it took the executive committee to take this matter serious after a couple of information had sprawled out and the kind of international embarrassment it had brought on the Nigerian Senate, when in the first instance the Code of Ethics Committee should have intervened in having to resolve this matter. Now, what made the Senate president step aside? Is it because it's coming from the president? Is that why he's stepping aside? Because according to the Senate president, they're saying that the reason why he's stepping down, the sudden withdrawal, which fuels speculation regarding his reasons for stepping down, was that the Senate president cited concerns over potential executive interference and raised doubts about the impartiality of the panel. What does that mean? What executive interference? You're the number 3. So are you referring to the interference of the president and the vice because you knew they were setting up a panel? You now decided to step aside from the investigation?
Only them know what they are cooking. As far as Nigerians are concerned, Nigerians care very less or very little about all that shenanigan that is going on in Abuja. Only they know what they are cooking. And then if Mr. Akpabio has stepped aside, and then does it mean that he won't come back to the seat? Are they trying to arrange a soft landing for him? Will the administrative committee that Mr. President has set up override the judicial the pronouncement that the Nigerians are expecting and waiting to see? Will the court not be allowed to do their work? Will must this thing be on the front burner on a daily basis when Nigerians are dying in various locations out of insecurity in the land? Is anybody thinking or talking about how to restructure this country so that all the wastages we are seeing in government should stop? I keep saying, and I repeat, that it is extremely shameful that the government would raise such a committee that is so mundane and so inanimate that they have abandoned their responsibility and they are raising up such a committee to do what? I ask, to do what? So the committee will now start sitting and be taking season allowance or what? And they will be now using precious time of the people. Are they going to sit in the night? Is it not the same day, Monday to Friday, that they use that they have to work, that they will now use to go and be asking, did you touch her or do not touch her? I think this alone shows that this government lacks direction. This alone tells you that this government is confused. This alone tells you that this government does not know what to do to move this country forward. And I feel so ashamed that the government could think and act in this regard.
Well, Barrister Friday Nzako, another thing to also consider is the fact that the National Security Advisor, this is the second occasion he's being involved or being put part of a political situation. The first time he was mentioned was in the Rivers State brouhaha when the president interceded or intervened with the 8-point resolution. The National Security Advisor in the person of Nuhu Ribadu was also part of the executive persons, that were there to resolve the impasse between Nyesom Wike and Fubara. This is another situation where the NSA is being involved in another political drama. All right, let's look at a situation like this. What if Natasha does not have concrete evidence to prove her case? Something beyond reasonable doubt. With this set of persons being put together to investigate her, do we see this as a descent or a complete obliteration of Natasha Akpoti's political career ever in this country? If the evidence she has is not compelling enough that will make the president put this set of persons together to investigate her case.
If she does not have enough evidence to prove her case, it is now the duty of the court to say so. And if the court pronounces so, then Akpabio has an option to sue her for defamation of character and demand some form of restitution, some form of apology, or even some form of recompense. It is not the duty of the executive. This matter has become sub judice. It has become a subject of court action and court adjudication. Why would the executive meddle into such? I keep saying that it was a very not well thought out policy or decision for them to raise up a committee where the committee override the judgment of the court, or will they ask the court to hold on that they are trying to look into it when the court has assumed jurisdiction, or will they be working side by side with the court and they will now come out with their own verdict while the court will come out with its own verdict? What is going on in Nigeria? Is the country going bananas? What is really going on? I think it is a cause to give anybody cause for concern. National Security Advisor, was he not there when he saw it on weekend operating with a brand new Rolls Royce in Rivers State? Government official, a serving minister, going to a party, flaunting a brand new Rolls Royce. I remember when government official had there was a policy that nobody in government would buy anything above Pujo 504 from Pujo Automobile Assembly Plant in Kaduna. And today, a minister will be flaunting around in a Rolls Royce, and Nigerians are clapping. Oh, they're in turn. Are we building a country, or we just want to kill this environment and everybody will go his place? And that's why I keep crying and I keep shouting that we must restructure Nigeria so that there will be sanity. Where it could be sanity. Nigeria is becoming like a country with insane people, with insane leadership that is very insensitive, very, very careless to the yearnings of the people, and do not even care about the future. What is going on in Nigeria? What are they teaching the youth in Abuja? Look at the whole thing going on in Nigeria. And now a whole government will sit down, raise a high-powered committee to look into the issue of he touched my nash, he didn't touch my nash. Oh goodness. What is the meaning of this now? Please leave me of this. My spleen is getting too high.
I can relate.
Leave me of this now. Before I get hypertension over this country's matter.
Barrister.
How can the president raise such a committee? Such a high-powered committee to look at, he looked at me, he touched my hand, he touched my bum. People that are elected at the Senate, is it not enough to sack all of them in a country that is serious? The rest of the world is planning on how to go to the moon. A ordinary bicycle we cannot produce in Nigeria. Keke we cannot produce in Nigeria. Are we not ashamed of ourselves in this country? And look at the kind of wastages that we are seeing all over the place. And now we are setting up a committee to look into an allegation of that is already in court. This government must know that there's a time to give account of their actions. Nigeria is going as if there's no tomorrow. The country is going as if there's no tomorrow. All over the place. It's either you are rich or you are trampled upon. And it's the only thing, that is why the young ones are looking for ways and means to get rich by all means, because the elders are not seeing them anything moral, anything good, anything that is judicial. Nothing. Just go and make money. Grab it, run away with it. I think President Tinubu must leave a legacy that he'll be remembered for. Otherwise, the way he's going, the way his comment is going, even his advisors are not advising him well. How can I be in the cabinet of Mr. President and I allow him to go and raise such a committee to look into whether Akpabio touched the nurse of Natasha?
Barrister Fred and Harcourt, please, let's try to coordinate with certain words. We can use certain euphemisms, but not necessarily words like what you tried to describe.
What are they talking about now? What are they talking about? If they're not ashamed, now they're saying it is bringing shame to Nigeria as an international company. Is that the only thing that is bringing shame? The biggest shame to Nigeria is lack of sovereignty. That we cannot defend our territorial integrity as a country. That a ragtag army of reckless people that you call Boko Haram or terrorists are decimating people all over the place, and we cannot secure the lives of our people. And you think the international community are not aware of it? Where are the Tokana jets that we bought? We spent a huge amount of money buying the Tokana jets. Maybe they said because America was not allowing us to buy arms. Today, who is stopping us from buying arms? We have all the Tokana jets. Where are they? Where are the whole money spent on unmanned area vehicles? The one you call unmanned area vehicles?
All right, Barrister, let's look at civil service. Let's look at
what is done in Nigeria known for today as we speak, apart from spending money and living reckless life and floating illegal stolen wealth all over the place.
But Barrister,
ordinary policy of government, you cannot get it right.
Barrister Fred and Harcourt, let's look at the coalition of 56 civil society organizations, including Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, that is SERAP, and the Human and Environmental Development Agenda header. They are calling for the resignation of the Senate President. And this is in wake of the Court of Appeal's decision to uphold the conviction of Professor Peter Ogban over allegations of manipulating election results in Akpabio's favor. All right, this particular situation was reaffirmed on Wednesday, where Ogban's 3-year jail sentence initially imposed after he was found guilty of altering the outcome of the 2019 Akwa Ibom Northwest senatorial poll, which benefited the current Senate President Godswill Akpabio. So the CSOs are issuing a strong-worded joint statement that this is a concern about the legitimacy of Senator Akpabio's mandate, that he is not supposed to be the Senate President because already there is a quagmire with how he became the Senate President. So now that Ogban has been arrested, Akpabio has dissociated himself from that incident. Then what happens to the legality of him being a senator, of him being a Senate President? If the person who manipulated that position is already in prison, why is the same thing not meted on the Senate President? Or do different laws apply to both of them?
It was not even this election that brought him to the Senate, the current Senate. Because this election that brought him to the current Senate was the election of 2023. When Akpabio was not even qualified to run. Remember that Akpabio was running for office of the president along in the south. The other man, the former Senate president, was running for office of the president.
Ahmed Lawan.
Ahmed Lawan, and they did not participate in the primaries for the senatorial election in their various constituencies, in their various senatorial zones. Akpabio did not take part in senatorial primaries in Akwa Ibom. Ahmed Lawan did not participate in the senatorial election in his state, and all of a sudden, Ahmed Lawan's gone. It was that he even pushed out Mr. Machina, and then the matter went on to Supreme Court, and shamefully, Ahmed Lawan was given the mandate of the party, and Ahmed Lawan is in the Senate today. Meanwhile, over and against the provisions of the Electoral Act of 2022, the same thing happened to Akpabio. So ordinarily, Akpabio is not supposed to be in the Senate. Now, take it back to when the professor reached the election on his behalf. The professor was found guilty by the lower court. The guilty judgment was confirmed by the Court of Appeal, and the man in whose favor he ran the election, even though that era had gone, the man in whose favor he ran the election has not been called to come and give account. How can we build a country where there is no rule of law, where there is selective justice, where there are two different laws for different sets of people, where the poor man will suffer and the rich man will not even be asked to give account? So ordinarily, I support the civil society groups that say Akpabio should come and give account, because this particular Senate, current Senate, the 10th Senate, Akpabio is not supposed to be there because he did not participate in the primaries of his party, in his state. So, and that was why you remember Rochas Okorocha now told him that he had to teach them how he maneuvered his way. And I had to teach them how he maneuvered his way to come back to the Senate, because all of them were scrambling for presidential tickets, and then he and Ahmed Lawan maneuvered their way and came into the Senate over and above the provisions of the law. So what kind of country are we talking? Are we running? When you make the law, you will clearly breach the provisions of the law, and there will be no consequences. So how can a country grow like that? Never. A country does not grow like that. Go and ask Singapore. Go and ask China. Go and ask other countries that we were. When government was reminded that in 1960, Mr. Peter Obi said recently in Topoke University that the people that were with us 30 years ago, that they had all bypassed us. The people that we were better than 30 years ago had all bypassed us. And then they said, oh, he was demarketing Nigeria. That is the new slogan now. When you say anything, they'll say they're demarketing Nigeria.
But the AFDB president recently made some statements about Nigeria's GDP. Wouldn't you consider that demarketing? He said it about Nigeria's economy.
These are statements of fact. These are, whether you
and the president's what do you call it? Special advisor on information and strategy came out to say that AFDB chair Akinwumi Adesina shouldn't have said what he said. I don't understand why, when people say the fact, they say that you are demarketing the country in an international platform.
They are making political statements of self-denial and the statement of deceit, because they know the truth. Truth is constant. No matter how you try to bury it, it must come back to the surface. Truth is like an inflated balloon dropped in water. If you push it down, just leave it, it will jump up again. That is truth. They know the truth. They know the truth. And Nigeria gets worse every decade. It was actually the first to say that.
No.
We've observed it and we've been saying it. That Nigeria decays every decade. That has been a slogan. That Nigeria decays every decade. And that is why the 70s were better than the 80s, the 80s better than the 90s, and progressively, for every 10 years, Nigeria gets worse. For Nigerians to begin to even remember and compare Tinubu's administration with that of Buhari tells you what we are talking about. Today, when Jonathan Goodluck was in power, they said he was leading Nigeria without direction. Today, even during Buhari's era, Jonathan's era became essentially one. Today, the terrible era of Buhari is now being remembered in nostalgic feeling by Nigerians, because the country is decaying daily. And then somebody will now begin to analyze and say Nigeria is better today than in 1960. He knows the truth. He only wants to make political statements that will deceive the people who they feel they want to deceive. The international community is aware. Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, which is a federal government agency, has given it that more people are going into poverty. More and more people are going into poverty. Sliding the poverty. World Bank said that 75% of Nigerian rural people in rural areas are living below poverty line. You stay in Abuja or you stay in Lagos or Port Harcourt, and then as a government official, you don't interact with the people. You move with siren and security provided by Nigerian government, and then you don't know how people are suffering. And when those who interact with the downtrodden tell you, a leader must listen, and not only listen to his cronies, but listen to the wide spectrum of people who will tell him the truth. And one of the set of people that will tell you the truth are civil society organizations. They are the ones because they interact with the people on a daily basis.
All right, Barrister Fred.
Foundations.
Barrister
Fred.
Fred.
Foundations. They were the ones that tell you the truth.
Thank you
the
so much.
The government is just living in denial and then messing up the whole country. Meanwhile, the future is so bleak that the youth does not know, the average youth in Nigeria does not know what to do tomorrow. It should worry everybody in government, in authority today.
Barrister Fred, thank you so much. You've actually run out of time. I sincerely do appreciate your input on the World News at 6 this evening.
Many thanks, even though you made my spleen to go up.
Sorry, Barrister Fred. Every other person would react at some point at the same way. So sorry about that, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, you just listened to Barrister Fred Nzako. He's a political and a social affairs commentator. He was the news analyst today on the World News at 6. So, pardon, his expression. I think he got passionate in the process of explaining the current situation going on in the country. All right, that's a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Esther Mwachkoba. See you again by 7 o'clock for the evening rush. We'll be joined this evening with Barrister Darlington Agumore. Good evening and stay with us.